Welcome to the Arrington Gavin Show. Real talk, big opinions, and fearless conversations. From the front lines of politics to the latest in pop culture. From breaking sports headlines to the stories that move the world. Nothing's off limits, and nobody's holding back. Arrington Gavin is here to break it down, build it up, and keep it all the way real. So turn it up, lean in, and let's get into it. This is the Arrington Gavin Show.
What is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to another great episode of the Arrington Gavin Show, your go-to spot for sharp insights, bold opinions, and unfiltered takes on the biggest stories of the day. Whether it's politics, sports, pop culture, or the latest buzz, look, we're diving deep and keeping it real. So please do me a favor, kick back, stay informed, and get ready to join the conversation. So, ladies and gents, tonight we're diving into something different, but very relevant. Now, politics today isn't just about policy. It's about mindset, emotion, and how we engage with people we disagree with. Our guest, Dr. Jen Johannsen, works with grassroots progressive candidates and leaders focusing on emotional awareness, communication, and what she calls being grounded. But here's the real question. Does the approach actually translate into leadership and real world results? So we're going to have a convo today, y'all, because I'm a huge fan of Dr. Johannsen. I follow her on our social media platform. I look at her as almost, I use the example of like my friend Kate Powell, aka Kate for the People. Folks that are political influencers. And I guess the word influencer, I know folks are like, I don't like the word influencer, but it's important where you see we all tune into, almost broke my phone there. We all tune into our devices and technology and social media more than we, tune into like, legacy media, right? Whether if it's a Fox or a News Nation or CNN. And look, I tune in to all. I'm a news buff. I can't help myself. I watch them all. But I also know that at the end of the day, it's all about boots on the ground in your communities, grassroots. That's where the voices, that's where the unheard is in. So we want to continue to build that conversation and give more what's the word I'm looking for? Give more exposure, because at the end of the day, I feel like they get overlooked. Like I learn more when it comes to real issues when I'm talking into the community, and whether if it's with senior citizens or just young people in general. Like I've always advocated, y'all, we have to be aware of what's going on in our backyard. Yes, we see what's going on in Washington. It makes me sick to my stomach. You don't want, please don't get me started with the dude in the White House. But what happens in the federal level trickles down on a state level, which will trickle down on a state level. So trickle down on a local level. Excuse me. Let me rewind that. Federal, state, and then local, right? Everything is a trickle effect. So what occurs up there can affect us in our own backyard, and we see it time and time with gas prices being so extremely high, affordability, which I've always said I feel like there's no such thing now as home affordability, because everything is just expensive. Okay, grocery prices, you name it, everything is so costly. But right now during this midterm cycle, it is so important to elect the right people. Okay, at the end of the day, we hire those, because elected officials work for us. Just remember that we're the ones that write the checks, so to speak. We are in charge of their salaries, and they work for us, and we have to make sure that we hire the right candidates we put into these positions. Now, a while back on the show, I shared my take on who do I look as not credible candidates, but candidates that I could see win elections. And as popular as we have a lot of progressive voices in office, like, for example, AOC. AOC is very popular, but can AOC win on a higher level than what she currently is in Congress? Me personally, I don't know, because we still have a lot of old moderates, that are not trying to give up power, which kills me to this very day, because I'm like, dude, you're walking in here on a walker. You're being wheelchair. Like, come on, we got to do better, y'all. There's people that, and it was funny because I was looking at a clip of Susan Collins, who's a senator out of Maine, and Republican senator out of Maine. And there was an old video like 30 years ago, and she was saying, oh yeah, term limits are very important. I would only do this for, maybe a few years and this and that and the other. again, that was 30 years ago. She's still in office. And so we got to make sure we bring in right candidates. So again, I'm excited to have on Dr. Jen Johannsen because she is someone that works strictly with progressive candidates, and she is an expert progressive. And I hope to, continue to have her on the show to hear her, to get her take on things. So you're going to be in for a treat, my friends. Again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule for tuning in to yet another great episode here on the Arrington Gavin Show. As you know, we drop new episodes weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, as well as wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's iHeart, Spotify, Apple, just to name a few. We're available on all major podcast platforms. And if you happen to be in one of these cities here, you can also listen to us on the radio airwaves. So shout out to our friends out in Las Vegas, KSHP 1400 AM or 107.1 FM. You can tune into the Arrington Gavin Show Fridays at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Again, that's only on KSHP 1400 AM and 107.1 FM. Then we're going to head over to the Metro Atlanta area to WDJY 99.1 FM. Straight talk, that is. Weeknights, you can listen into the Arrington Gavin Show at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then lastly, over in the Who Dat Nation, that is New Orleans, WBOK 1230 a.m. You can listen in weeknights to the Arrington Gavin Show, 7 p.m. Central Time. And last but certainly not least, I want to shout out to GOATverse TV. We aired past episodes. You can check out past episodes of the Arrington Gavin Show on GOATverse TV. All you have to do is download the app. It's available on the App Store, Google Play Store, Roku, or Amazon Fire TV. All righty, fam. Well, look, we are going to head to a quick commercial break. But as I mentioned before, I am honored to have on Dr. Jen Johannsen on. Very excited to have her on. And you're going to be in for a treat. So please do not go anywhere. Don't change that dial. We'll be right back with more here on the Arrington Gavin Show.
Every man has a story to tell. Your ambitions, your achievements, your legacy. Your suit should reflect that story. Crafted precisely, designed for impact, and tailored exclusively for you. We work with only the finest fabrics, luxurious wools, silk, linen, and blends from world-renowned mills in Italy, the UK, and India. These fabrics are the foundation of custom suits that exude elegance and stand the test of time. But a suit isn't just about fabric. It's about fit, and it's about confidence, and it all starts with you. When you work with me, you'll receive a personalized consultation, whether in person or over Zoom. Together, we'll explore your vision and discuss your needs. And we're going to bring your ideas to life. My journey as a designer includes apprenticing under New York-based designer Clavon Leonard, showcasing collections at New York Fashion Week, Algeria Fashion Week, and the prestigious Baltimore Met Gala. That experience is what we bring to every suit we create, from weddings to corporate events and everything in between. We specialize in crafting one-of-a-kind suits for life's most significant moments. Dapper Luke has been recognized as one of Baltimore's best menswear in 2023, and I was honored to be one of the 10 designers selected for the prestigious Baltimore Met Gala. With over 900 satisfied clients, we proudly serve Virginia Beach and Baltimore, bringing world-class designs to these incredible communities. We don't just make suits, we craft confidence. Your suit will fit your body, your style, and it will tell your story. Book your free online personal consultation today. Visit www.dapperluke.com.
What's up, y'all? Welcome now.
And we still in traffic.
I don't look familiar, do I? Not in this seat.
Hey, what's that you listening to?
Here to host today.
Hey, turn it up.
With me?
Yeah, this that new GOATverse app. I got you.
So y'all want to know where the goats are? They're off on the sidelines.
Looking for fresh, relevant content wherever you go?
What was the name of the app he said?
Introducing GOATverse TV.
GOATverse, that's what it's called.
The free streaming app that brings you the best podcasts, current events, and thought-provoking opinions all in one place. Download it now from the Apple Store or Play Store. In GOATs, we trust.
6'10", #1 pick, 16 seasons, College Player of the Year, All-Rookie Standout. Joe Smith built a career on grit, consistency, and showing up.
Greatness isn't just about the game. It's about how you show up every day. Rugged Evolution now offers body care products for every man, because not every man wears a beard, but every man deserves care. Greatness doesn't fade.
It evolved.
Rugged Evolution Beard Care. Every beard deserves to be legendary, and every man deserves care. All right, family, welcome back to the show. As I mentioned earlier, excited to have on a special guest, someone I am a fan of. I tune into her content on a regular when I can, and if I miss some, I'm like, okay, let me catch back. Because again, I'm starting to, I keep myself informed by folks like our next guest, Dr. Jen Johannsen. So let me go ahead and bring her on. Dr. Johannsen, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am great. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come here for a conversation. I know you're extremely busy because there are a lot of elections, big elections happening, especially here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. But for our audience members that are don't know too much of you, if you don't mind just sharing a brief background about yourself to us.
Yeah. So originally I'm a dentist. I don't know if you knew that about me.
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna say the teeth are mighty perfect. That's all I'm gonna say. It does surprise me.
So I have two arcs that have converged in this last year. One is professionally. I got out of dental school in 2013, and after being in school for 9 years, I realized after a couple of years of private practice that I really didn't like it, and I'm proud of myself for being honest enough to admit that to myself. And it's kind of like, okay, what do I do now, right? When I was in dental school, I met someone who was a dentist turned business coach, marketing consultant for other dentists. And at the time, I remember getting really excited about marketing because I saw it as high integrity marketing being the bridge between a problem and a solution when it's done well. And when it's done with humor and humanity, right? So fast forward, I started doing marketing consulting for other dentists in 2017, 2018. In 2018, I also had the opportunity to coach Miss Universe contestants on their interviews, which translates surprisingly well to debate prep. We can get into that in a minute, believe it or not. And then I didn't, with dentistry, I cut back and cut back and cut back over time as I built these other things out. In 2024, I started my public Instagram account, which at the time I was just so ready to be done with dentistry. I didn't even want to consult for them. I was doing business coaching for solo entrepreneurs. And while it was part tactical, part strategic, growing the socials, et cetera, it was equal parts self-worth and how to stay not attached to all these outcomes, whether they be highs or lows, also translates very well to politics. So then the other arc that's kind of, converged recently is I'm from upstate New York, went to college in Virginia, dental school in Virginia. And since I got out of school in 2014, I've lived in the same city as Liberty University, which is a very Christian conservative college.
Extremely, very, very much so.
Very conservative.
Very much.
In fact, it's thought that Trump's nomination by the Republican Party in 2015 was largely a result of Jerry Falwell Jr. being the first pastor to endorse him. And in the evangelical tradition, there's not a lot of questioning authority, right? There's a lot of following behavior. So it's thought that if the Falwells didn't give him that endorsement, we wouldn't even have had these last 10 years. So, yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
What's that? No, you're good.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but it blows my mind because I see who I'm assuming who took the reins of Jerry Falwell, and that's Franklin Graham, because it for me has been. I mean, Paula White is one of them. I've criticized all the evangelicals personally because I'm just like, okay, you can't be this person. Like Paula White literally said, a no for Trump is a no to God. I'm like, what? And so, sorry, I didn't mean to get that. Yeah, I kind of do that a lot. I apologize.
I like that. You're good. Like that's how these you apparently have watched my interviews. It sounds like you do. That's how my candidate interviews are. So anyway, it wasn't until, and by the way, this endorsement of Trump in 2015 is thought to be related to that pool boy thing that we talked about a minute ago. The pool boy, like it was part of a deal to keep that under wraps.
I don't know what pool boy you're talking about. I don't know anything about it.
You pull that out.
I don't even like swim. I don't have a pool boy. I don't like. Okay, let me stop. I told you we're gonna have some fun here, Doc. We're gonna have some fun here.
You're good. Please call me Jen, by the way.
Jen, okay, bad.
So I didn't understand. Allyship to LGBTQ plus community has always been enormous to me, and that was my initial first steps into this path. Mm-hmm. And after 2015, when same-sex marriage became legal nationwide, I naively became complacent. And then everything happened with the trans community. And it wasn't until 2020 when I realized the depth of the cult. And I was in healthcare in the Bible Belt. And I had coworkers who I'd known for over 6 years at that point saying, not only do I not believe the news, like where I'm from, New York, people were going through incredibly difficult things. They would say, I don't believe you. I didn't know what to do with that. And I had a series of really uncomfortable things happen around the same time with that year and January 6th. But January 6th was a big pivot point for me. Took a deep dive into learning about the Bible for the first time ever, because I'm not from a particularly religious background. And I think of spirituality as something rooted in humility and curiosity and something universal. It was easy for me to understand potential mistranslations or like, well, I'm never going to say 100% what certain things mean, because I think that lacks the humility that you need to experience spirituality. I can say pretty certainly what things don't mean. And that led me to start having conversations in my community regularly with people who already knew me and liked me and trusted me. And that's why when we zoom forward to last summer, I thought about running for Congress myself. Everything was going on. I saw what was going on. I didn't see anyone stepping forward in my district who had the social media platform already and and people are used to talking to their community in different ways, but I had become very comfortable talking to conservative voters. I started to platform candidates last summer, and I clocked it as a movement early. The only ones on my radar were Deja Fox, Kat Abugzale, and someone named Jake Rakove, who was running out in California, and he's no longer running. But I thought, this is different. They're younger, they're bolder, they're honest, they can speak up when they misstep. And these interviews were the single most helpful part of my day. So the business coaching I was doing, a lot of how to grow on social media, how to have content creation be efficient, high integrity sales and marketing and persuasion skills, and then all the inner work. When the Charlie Kirk assassination happened, I was still 2 days a week as a dentist, 3 days a week doing other things. I gave up business coaching entirely. And I thought, I'm just going to use these skills for candidates for free. I'm in a place where I can do that. They need what I do for entrepreneurs. I put them in a Signal chat, and very quickly I was running that as a group business coaching program. It's big now. It has a little bit less structure, but it still has structure. It now represents somewhere between 105 and 110 campaigns for the U.S. House and Senate that are values aligned, alongside a few dozen intentional influencers, amplifiers, organizers, creators, etc. And I've built out private consulting work on a small handful. The program itself is free.
That is awesome. Wow. So for one, because there's so much to kind of dissect within that intro. So dentistry, everything that you mentioned as far as the consulting factor, that blends perfectly with politics, because I've always, being a small business owner, I look at politics obviously as a business. I look at a candidate as a product. At the end of the day, they're trying to sell you sell voters, sell, folks themselves in order to receive, the votes. And so I always really focus hard on candidates. So first thing word you mentioned was humility. I look at for some reason, I feel like you can see their heart first. And if you see their heart first, then eventually you start, okay, let me talk on, let me check on their policies, right? Let me see the issues that they're tackling on their campaign, because there's a lot of candidates that people always say, oh, stop, having the feeling, you're so emotional when it comes to your emotion. I'm like, no, but you have to realize, I played sports when I was in high school. And if we voted on a captain, it was a reason why we voted on a captain. Sometimes that captain might have not been the best player, but they had that leadership role. It's like, okay, that's the representation that we need for that can represent this team. I mean, they're respectful, they're this, they're that. And I'm like, okay, if they don't have, if they lack humility, well, you know what? I don't see that as so humility's always been, a big factor for me. And I think that's why, again, I hate to speak on, who we have serving as our president currently, but I just think since day one, I just like, wow, like I don't get it. But now you see a long list of candidates who has kind of used that platform, use the MAGA platform to say, oh, this is the new working strategy. This is the new Republican Party. Now we gotta follow along with this and continue to do this and that and the other. And we see it, a shift obviously on both party lines. We have, at one point it was, you had more conservative Democrats. You can say that was, in office. You had, your moderates, and progressive or rising voices in the Republican Party. There is a separation between MAGA and the Republican Party. I mean, folks, I always say, hey, there's two different. It's not the Republican Party that a lot of people are familiar with. So, and then you see some rising stars in the independent, side of things, which I mean, I enjoy seeing that, because I'm not too fond of the two-party system. I think that's kind of one of the things that really divide our nation, but that's a whole nother conversation there. But when you had started to consult candidates, right, what are some of the key things that, if you don't mind sharing, what are some of the key things that you see with the candidate, or that that candidates look and write down, oh wow, that's a really important thing, I need to start doing that? What are some key things that is like, okay, these are what candidates need to have in order to win elections? Because there's multiple elections. You have to have be endorsed by a party, for one. You have a primary, and then you have to actually win the election. So if you don't mind, I hope that question wasn't kind of all around the place, but
great. And the one step of that I would just correct real quick is that the first step isn't getting endorsed by a party. It's getting on the ballot, is ballot access, which is
ballot access. Yes.
Ballot access is different than an endorsement. And then it's getting through the primary, and then it's getting through the general. So like everything I do and everything I always do will fall into two buckets. There's a tactical practical, and then there's like an inner work abstract. On the tactical practical side, unlike a lot of political consulting types of things, I started this in September out of a response to what was happening in my environment, and I built this as I did it. So for me to say, oh, I have this goal of this many wins and this win rate and would never make sense this cycle, but I don't think I will ever operate that way, because what I look for is a little bit different. I'm looking to move the needle over time in how to do politics differently without taking money that makes politicians not be able to put people first. So it's like a hypothesis of a general way to do things radically differently and with integrity. And we've already moved the needle. And I can get into those details in a minute. But in terms of individual candidates, on the practical side, the biggest thing I've been able to help them with is social media. I don't make a lot of my own content anymore, because my own social media isn't that big of a priority to me, but I could. And I had a lot of training on my own with just like things that are very probably obvious to you, but might not be to someone who hasn't done this before, like clipping out dead time, having captions, having good sound and good lighting. But it goes beyond that. I have a specific app that I use it's very inexpensive. It's called InShot. It has a feature called AI Cut, and it clips out all the lulls and the ums instantly. The captions are outstanding. I have them overlay their logo on everything they do, because it's instant context. Reels go to mostly non-followers. So if you take up the first 3 seconds of every video saying, hi, I'm da-da-da running in this district, it's context.
It's pointless. It's like that's cool. Where's this town?
Whereas if you have your logo there's instantaneous context. It builds authority and positioning and liking and all of these things. And yet you can still have a really standout hook and have people start to want to follow you and learn about you. So it's stuff like that. It's ways to have social media be a system. At this point, I'm largely teaching that to people's teams. Most people have a social media on their team at this point. In the beginning, it was, partly that strategic stuff. And then it was people calling me with things like, I just found out, this is a very specific example of someone who ended up doing really well when his primary came, but he called me and he's like, do you have a minute? I did consulting for free for months. I started to charge for this one-on-one stuff within the last couple of months, but like I about building out skills I already had in a different realm, and it was meaningful to help these candidates. But one of the calls that stands out from the fall is he called me and he said, I just found out that this local college that's huge is having a panel, and they invited everyone for this district except me. He's 24 at the time. Wow. Actually, he's still 24. He wasn't going to turn 25 until right before the general. And he said, I'm angry, but I'm also like motivated, and I want to show up. I want to show up and walk in, and like I want help knowing like, how do I feel better about this? First of all, second of all, what kind of vibe when I get there? And he did it. We talked through humble authority is the posture I take with almost everything. We talked through how to do that, how to what to say when he got there. I usually caution people away from being snarky. And sometimes what we see as louder or stronger, especially on the right, is like a very snarky, egotistical energy, but you can match that level of confidence without that that uncomfortable, egotistical energy, right? You can be confident and humble. And when we talked through a contingency plan, which was if you aren't able to be on this panel, you walk around campus and interview students. I'll crowdsource some people with followings and we'll boost your content together.
Why do you think candidates, or just in general, just the culture, the political culture, is like so opposite of doing, in a sense, like simple things like, look, just go around. These folks are here that live here are most likely voters. Talk with them. Talk if you speak with, I'm gonna say, at least 50 out of a community, I'm gonna say a 400, you probably would know exactly what your key issues. It's just sometimes I see things like, why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? And you brought up money, because it's almost like you can't ever run because we don't have money. You see a lot of, in my opinion, I think there's a lot of great folks that could run, that could obviously win and be great at what great elected officials. They look at politics as, this is only a rich person's game because you're going to need money this and money that, kind of, example, but I wouldn't consider them rich, but just the main election. Janet Mills, governor out of Maine. She just suspended her Senate race, which opens up a larger pathway. Jen, you know me too well. You know me. You beat me to it. Did it? But you're right. She has been in office for a long time, and she announced that she was suspending her race because her main reason was money. And in my mind, I'm like, sure. It's just I don't know. I feel like that's like just a bad excuse sometimes, because you don't win an election because of money. You win off votes. And I get it. Like when it comes to ads, when it comes to literature and, events that you want to put together, I get it. It costs money. But I'm like, at the end of the day, if people are going to support you and want to see you, then why, because I don't know. I mean, what's your take on, the whole, especially that you work for, on a grassroots side of it with candidates, and as you work strictly, or can I correct that? Or do you work strictly with progressive candidates?
Yeah. Defined as putting people first. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But, I have not seen a single I can't imagine a conservative platform that puts human beings first. I just can't even imagine it. You'd have to get over so much homophobia and so much human rights stuff, and so much women's health stuff. My program is mostly people running on a Democratic ticket. There are a few people running as independents. There was one woman, her name is Kate Barr. She ran as a Republican in North Carolina on an unapologetically progressive platform. Yes.
Yeah. You know what? So small world. Oh man, who was she? Oh, she was interviewed by, don't have a brain fart. Amanda Nelson. She's I
saw her on Thursday. We went to a karaoke night together.
Yes. Tim, who will be on the show very soon. Yes, I know exactly.
Well, I have a funny story. I'm gonna detour us real quick. It's Tim Sawinski, who's running in the 1st, Adam Dunnigan, who's now running in the 7th, and Elizabeth Beggs, who's now running in the 8th. They have been dubbed the Virginia Hotties by some folks across the country who have seen them take on canvassing together. And they decided, after I was hanging out with them last week, that I'm an honorary Virginia Hottie.
Y'all. Look, this is gonna be a great episode, y'all. I'm gonna tell you right now, record numbers and views. Now, well, I hope you took that with that honor. Yes, okay. If Lynchburg is listening to this,
someone who's running for Congress, who's like a few decades older than this, I won't say his name. I don't want to embarrass him. I thought it was so funny. And they're running a little closer to where I live. And I told them about the Virginia Hotties. He's like, how do I join?
That is hilarious. That is so funny. Which
you gotta have.
Yeah.
I was going to say, work in this space is largely rooted in creating real relationships first and letting the movement build on that.
And what's cool about that trio that you just named is that I don't know if all three or two of them I know are in the primary or running in the same primary, but they're still very respectful. it's not like
so
a
they no
headbutt
longer
kind of thing.
are with the
Oh,
redistricting.
due to the redistricting. That's
Oh
right.
my
That's
gosh,
right.
they were each other's huge supporters. But with the redistricting now, none of them are overlapping. District 1 had of any district in this entire country, Virginia's first district had 4 incredible candidates before the redistricting, and now they're largely split up. 2 of them are now in 5, but yeah, one of them stayed in 1. Elizabeth went to 8. It was a really fun night. Elizabeth and I got our 90s country on with the karaoke.
That is hilarious. That is okay. We're definitely gonna talk more about the 90s country karaoke after this. But where are we going with this? Okay, when it comes to candidates that you represent and money, yes. Is money, I guess the big question is money the most? If you don't have the money, you can't win an election, you can't even run a campaign. As a consultant, like, is that a fact? Is that false? How would you respond to that?
It is the fact up until now. So what I see my work as is this hypothesis of how do we make that not the case, and hopefully we will overturn Citizens United eventually, which has allowed this unlimited kind of influx of money from like corporations and that kind of thing. But you mentioned that not a lot of progressives win. The folks in my group, the through line, I don't make them sign anything. I run it as an honor code. It's been simple. It's worked. But the through line is that they do not accept corporate PAC or special interest money, which would include foreign interest money like APAC. And up until now, I wasn't involved in politics in 2024 like this, but like it was from what I can tell, a very small number of people trying to run campaigns like this because it was impossible. What I've learned doing this is that a lot of the PACs, a lot of the endorsement groups, et cetera, don't even look at candidates unless they've raised, let's say, $150,000 to $200,000. A lot of the candidates, even at this point, have raised less than 50, and yet they have traction. So I started to befriend a lot of the PACs in the fall. I would get on calls with them. This is when I had my big pivot after Charlie Kirk assassination. And I was like, how do I make candidate stuff my full-time job? I retired from dentistry in December. But how do I do this? What do I do to make this meaningful? I started to get to know them, and I started to hypothesize different metrics of how to evaluate these folks. Like, how good are they at communicating with like red, blue, independent, apathetic voters in their community? What does their social media look like? How good at they are at being spontaneous when they have a question and articulating it clearly? And money being one of several things. Now, because there are so many of them this time, like it truly is a movement. And because of that, I've been able to take this bird's eye view of dozens upon dozens upon dozens of campaigns as I've gotten to know these folks. And like Jeremy Whalen in Massachusetts has canvassing and volunteer stuff down to a T, and he's built this enormous volunteer coalition that works. Michaela Barnett in Tennessee has these progressive speed dating. It's more like a make new friends type of thing than truly dating, but like she has fundraised. She has figured out a way to really get people excited about something that they didn't think was possible in Tennessee. Bree Woodson was a content creator first before she ran for Congress. She has figured out how to raise money from TikTok videos. So people put together what's working in these different arenas, and then we share.
It's interesting. It's very interesting.
And then a big part of my work is connections with independent media and content creators. When I first started to interview candidates back in July, I only had probably 6,000 followers. I have about 20,000 now. So, but not a huge following, but it's a very niche following. But even back then, my 6,000 was more than their 400. And I started to get to know content creators behind the scenes with the goal of kind of like matchmaking them with candidates.
Yeah.
And then there was a big conference in DC in the fall, not conference, protest called Remove the Regime. And I had the opportunity to plan a press conference for these candidates with Citizens Impeachment, which has also built now an enormous coalition. Their through line is we're outwardly pro-impeachment. We'll introduce articles of impeachment on day one. It's the exact same group of people. Accountability and affordability and humanity and dignity is like at the forefront of all of these campaigns. But their angle is different and necessary, right? We move alongside each other with two different things we do for these candidates. But we put on this press conference, and we filled the room with content creators, independent media, organizers. And my work has gotten a ton of attention. And having content creators be on board with this as a movement hasn't been something, it's like I no longer had to like push a rock up a hill. They're like, oh, The primary is when we actually get to choose. And these folks don't have the money to go about it normally, but we have a platform. So in the absence of being able to run TV ads or radio ads or pay for canvassers, we have the opportunity to do something really cool and do it together and do it well.
It's so interesting because, and I mean, I look, I don't consider myself anywhere near, again, you know, my friend Kate, who's a dear friend. Again, shout out to Kate for the people. Kate, Amanda, those, I mean, yourself as well. Like I'm a student. I consider myself a student, right? And so when I'm getting, you know, an email from, okay, I'm like, oh wow, because again, I'm just having a conversation. It blows my mind that now you see the digital space well outshining like legacy media. Like it's kicking their asses as we speak every single time, and to the point where you can almost say the reason why we have this individual back in Washington was, well, he got on a podcast, or not just one podcast, but he was going on podcasts. He wasn't doing a lot of legacy media interviews. He was on Rogan at the end. He was again all the yes.
I watched that entire 3-hour interview and it was so
God bless you, God. And look, I'm a Rogan fan. I mean, I know Rogan has irritated me for, you know, obviously it was hurt because I give credit where credit's due. The man has an icon when it comes to podcasting. That I can't. I've always been strong with that. Don't agree with his stances, obviously politically, because he endorsed, you know, a person, which Rogan's never been like that. But my whole conspiracy theory with it is, you know, Rogan is employed by Dana White. Dana White is very tight with Trump, and because Rogan is a UFC commentator. Yes, Rogan has his own platform. He can do his own thing, but at the end of the day, he made the decision to endorse. And 3+ hours. I mean, he's gone crazy now with 3 hours. That's like his shortest ones. I mean, he's doing 4 hour, 5 hour stuff. I couldn't do it. But I'm seeing legacy. I'm seeing digital content, podcasts, TikTok programs. We see Netflix even considering bringing TikTok channels to their streaming platforms. I mean, it's so interesting seeing how they're trying to adjust and say, okay, how can we incorporate the digital space? And it's very interesting. I had a follow-up question in regards to, you mentioned PACs don't even look at candidates with, you know, $50,000 or less. Would you say that, because as I mentioned earlier, I don't see progressives. I see progressives being very popular, very vocal, and build a presence. But when it comes to that election day, they just don't. And I mean, you can almost, which I don't consider her progressive, but the primary that happened not too long ago in Texas between James Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett, right? Jasmine Crockett has already she has, you know, build a popularity brand as, hey, look, she's gonna say what's on her, you know, mind. She's gonna, you know, come at you. She's gonna, you know, she's gonna fight fire with fire. James Tallarico is somebody that's a little more mellow, more calm, more, hey, look, let's see how we can, you know, work together, X, Y, and Z. And he ended up, you know, being the winner. Now, it's also Texas. I'll just leave it at that. It's also Texas. Texas still very red. And I just there was a lot of things that I would say I knew it was going to be hard for Crockett. I say all that. I know I kind of stretch him out so much, but I say all that is the reason why progressive candidates are not succeeding at the end is because they don't have the funding, or is it that sometimes their messaging is just not quite attractive to the average, you know, voter come the end, or is it a voting issue? Because I know there's mostly the older 65 and up is always going to be the higher voting turnout. We're still working on getting more young people out there on the, you know, to the voting polls, at least here in Hampton Roads. I can't speak for the full state, but I feel as though like a lot of young people are still not quite as when it comes to politics. But you know, when it comes to stances, Jen, I mean, do you think that progressive candidates could I guess I don't know, ease off when it comes to I don't know. It's just they always have
I
a bad
love that
rep.
question. Okay, so I'm gonna explain the money thing a little bit differently. So when a candidate decides to accept these donations that will inevitably alter how they vote, because they're then yoked to that corporation's interests, that foreign entity, whatever. The way politics has worked up until now, you get above this threshold, then you get the other endorsements, then you have enough money to advertise, and your name recognition has so much momentum that people, they're looking at the D, you're looking at the R, but like before this year, there wasn't a lot of knowledge about how campaigns are funded. I didn't understand how campaigns are funded. The public knowledge of things like AIPAC and how so much of our politics is tied to Israel's interests has gone from very small to like quite high, and that trajectory is going to continue to the point that I believe we're approaching a point where AIPAC can put as much money as it wants to into certain primaries, and that is a deterrent for that candidate that they're supporting, that Democratic candidate, because people know. So if somebody has, a typical congressional campaign might raise somewhere between $200,000 and $2 million. A typical campaign for Senate is probably over $3 million. And don't quote me on that. I'm going off of numbers in just like this election cycle and my 8 months of experience being in this field. But like a lot of these grassroots folks have raised under 300,000 and most are under 50 because they will not accept money that shifts their vote away from being what people need. Now let's talk about a progressive platform. So you have to have name recognition to win, right? And if you are going to run a campaign, there's a lot of different buckets. You need to have a team. These folks don't have enough money to pay a team. You have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to have payroll. So a lot of them are finding competent people who can go without an income for a period of time, and that's hard. You have to learn the social media piece. And my role, or one of my objectives, has been to collapse time for them with learning how to do that well and efficiently, either themselves or their team. And then you have to learn how to canvass, how to door knock, how to have volunteers. And within that volunteer structure, have it run well. Because leadership skills, even for our elected officials, we're not taught them. Some of the private consulting work I've done has been conflict resolution, either for teams or one recently was between two campaigns. And the candidates were fine, but a former volunteer was causing some issues between the two campaigns. They hired me to help resolve it. So the money piece is huge. Up until this year, I don't think we had enough of, I look at this as like a science experiment. We hadn't put enough of we hadn't trialed enough things to like refine how to make these campaigns work. And that has been
gather up all the data, because data is like takes years. Like that's why sometimes with the polling, I'm like, oh my gosh, these pollings, they don't take just a week. They take longer than
a long time.
they expected.
And from a platform standpoint, I don't think of a progressive platform as all that partisan. And I'm going to explain what I mean. And I'm actually going to talk about religion real quick. I wasn't raised in a religious household, so particularly religious, at least. It wasn't taken seriously. So I didn't have this preconceived notion of what the Bible was saying. I have experienced what I think of as like a collective consciousness or a higher power that I experience as a universal thing. And the more I am relaxed and able to take care of myself and have boundaries and that kind of thing, the more I'm able to live from that place. So it's like a filling. It's like an abundance thing. I have to be filled up too. Whereas I think a lot of religion teaches scarcity, right? Deplete. I think that what Jesus and the Buddha and others were teaching is that when we're in a very depleted state, perpetually a survival state, which I will acknowledge off the bat, I grew up with a lot of privilege, and there are ways people are in a survival state all the time. They cannot help. But when we are taught in a conditioned way to be fearful and other people, and that we're sinful, it creates unnecessary survival energy. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I think that what Jesus was teaching, sin is translated from 9 different words, and the only one Jesus is recorded as having used is hamartia, to live blindly, to miss the mark, to miss the whole point of life. To me, that translates to being in our ego, being in a rigid form of thinking where we're not willing to consider another opinion. We get like defensive really easily. That can happen on both sides of the political spectrum. Very common in high demand religion. And it's also common in trauma responses. We just get triggered really easily. I think the process Metanoia was mistranslated to repent. It didn't originally have anything to do with shame or fear or punishment. It meant a radical inner transformation. I think that's very in alignment with our modern understanding of trauma-informed healing. And as we do our healing work, we learn to have this, I've done EMDR, which is a form of trauma therapy that allows us to reprocess stuck emotions. As we do our own healing work, as we learn to set boundaries, as we learn to say no, as we learn to stand up for ourselves, we become less in a state of ego and more in a state of like spiritual abundance, if you will. Like life's not a zero-sum game. There's enough for everyone. And when we can transcend that scarcity-based thinking, and I use the word transcend lightly because we're humans and we go in and out of these states, right? They fluctuate. We just have to be self-aware of them, right? But the more of this healing work we do, the more we're able to stay in like a emotionally mature, nuanced, responsive, not reactive state. And salvation, more closely meaning liberation, I think it means from the prison of the mind, from the prison of what the Buddha would have called secondary suffering. So let me pause on that for a second. Put that to the side. I have a book outlined called Seeing Clearly. And it's a hypothesis that in the absence of trauma, conditioned beliefs, religious dogmatic beliefs, we all want the same things. And we have the communication skills, or we can build the communication skills to actually solve real problems. So what I think of as a progressive platform is the absence of our blind spots to a large extent, and the presence of emotional maturity so that we can see real problems clearly. Transgender kids are real. Is there a version of that perhaps has evolved in ways that are unhealthy in isolated scenarios? Of course, but emotional maturity would say, this is real, this treatment helps kids, this kid saves lives. The medical community can refine like how we make these decisions and when to save lives. That is very different than people who have never experienced it and don't have medical training have a strong, rigid opinion. So a progressive platform, I believe, is real solutions to real problems that help everyone, like healthcare, universal childcare, better transportation, more affordable housing, etc., safety, accountability, alongside knowing fiercely that human rights are not a zero-sum game.
Why do you think it's such a disconnect, though, in the Democratic Party as a whole? I'll speak specifically, just on a federal level right now, but Virginia has it too. Like the state of Virginia, there's definitely a disconnect between, your progressive voices and your moderates. Why do you think? Because if I was just somebody that was just now walking into politics, I would assume that, okay, if I'm a member of a team, of a party, then I'm going to do what I can to help out my team member, right? We're not going to always agree on everything, but at the end of the day, we're always trying to get a win. But we see now, like, there's a massive disconnect between progressive Democrats and moderate Democrats. But the issues that you spoke on, those are issues that benefit the majority. And I have a word in mind that I think you might say as far as with one of the reasons or the answer, but like, why do you think there is such a disconnect currently with progress? And I use AOC as example, or Ileana Omar, or members from the squad, right? I shared that Cori Bush is making her return to politics. Jamal Bowman has still, he's still very vocal, but not making any comeback currently. But why is that though? Because I still feel like what you're saying is like, those are backyard issues. Those are what do they call dinner table discussion? Those are dinner table issues. Yeah, those are real issues. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. All good. I believe that, the Tea Party, the MAGA movement was this insurgent thing that kind of took over the Republican Party in a not great way, obviously, in a very toxic way. I think this progressive movement is this insurgent, new, bold, human type of candidate, policy forward, people forward thing that is taking over the Democratic Party in a very productive way. I think the old guard operates on fear. They operate out of ego. They operate out of scarcity, and that might be all they know. And that's okay. And part of my mission is, someone asked me, I spoke at a separation of church and state conference last weekend, and someone asked me, does it worry you, the fragmentation? And it was an abrupt, probably almost blunt, nope. Because something that is old has to fundamentally dissolve or fracture or whatever for the new to arise. And I don't think it's going to require it's just this movement, if you will, that I'm part of and I'm helping grow, and a lot of other people are too. It has to gain enough momentum, and it is gaining momentum rapidly to where it feels like the safer choice. It feels like the safer choice, right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. What I've noticed is it's almost like when you have newcomers that are coming out running against longtime elected leaders, all of a sudden the public puts them as a progressive candidate because obviously you're progressive. You're going against this person who's been in office for, and I'm thinking of, I can't think of his name to save my life, but over in Tennessee, there's a congressional race where a state legislator, the Fro.
Mike.
Oh my. Yes.
Mike,
yes.
Yep. He's a good friend of mine. Mike Cortez.
Is it Cortez? Oh no, I'm sorry. No, he's running against oh man.
Chaz Mulder.
It's gonna come to me because he was one of the two individuals who was very vocal during a state legislating session, and really young. They're like maybe early 30. Justin, yes. Oh, thank you, Jen. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's Justin. But Justin is running against a long-standing elected official who's running for re-election, but publics will put him as progressive because they're like, okay, if you're going against the I don't know, the leaders in the party, you must be progressive because and it's like I'm not a fan of it, and I think a lot of young people don't like it either. That's why I've always tried to encourage, like, you have to realize that your vote is your voice, because it's easy to say, oh yeah, I like this person, but when it comes to election day, are you going there and making that heard? Because folks still they will turn out and lose by these small margins. But we do see a rise of new people, new voices that, look at the Marjorie Taylor Greene's old district. Almost was lost, almost flipped, right? Donald Trump's district in Florida was flipped blue on a special election delegate race, I believe. So it's just, we see small things being done. But I feel as though there's so many hiccups. It's an uphill battle for when I see progressive voices that are pursuing. And again, I don't consider myself progressive, nor am I against having a progressive leader. I think that yes, there's gonna be some positive. I'm gonna be like, I don't know, but let's talk about it, right? That's why I love conversation. But I think now voters and just residents in general are like, okay, we need solutions now. We need to start really doing our own research when it comes to who we choose, who we vote for, and who we bring on to work for us.
So that's a really great segue into what I wanted to say next, which is part of the reason I think I geek out on progressive policy so much is that they're practical and they get shit done. Like Mom Donnie has had, the team that does his socials has these like hilarious posts on social media, like 16,000 holes filled, and like 100,000. He got to work on practical things that people can see and that affect people's lives in creative ways. For both the like pothole filling project and for snow removal, they paid people, I want to say something like $35 to $40 an hour to come in and get a job done well and quickly. And it worked, and people appreciated it. And now, don't quote me on the details, but I believe the way universal child care or pre-K is being funded is people who own a second residence in New York. So it's not their primary residence, and that residence is worth over $5 million, pay more in taxes. These are people who have enough wealth that their second home is worth
$5
million. And those people don't live there. They're choosing.
Can I just have one? I just want to have like 1 million.
So, and I might not even have those numbers correct, but that will generate enough tax revenue to fund childcare for working families. To me, there is so much money that's like latent and dormant and like tucked away with people who have the wealth distribution in our country is
Oh, it's
insane.
it's extremely high, and I'm looking at my time because I definitely want to ask you too quick because I think I'm gonna have like a few short minutes.
So fast.
I know, and I'm telling you, maybe we might have to do a Joe Rogan length show one day. Maybe
maybe we will. I'm here for it. Oh well, man, you know what we need to do is do it in person.
There we go. Absolutely.
I'm in Lynchburg. I mean, that's a very doable thing.
It sounds like a plan right there. We need to do some country karaoke after or mid show or something like that. I mean, it's gonna be a party, but
I'll text you next time the Virginia Hotties have an event. You can.
There we go. I'm gonna tell my wife and be like, hey, look, I was just invited by the Virginia Hotties. Just want to let you know your boys are hottie. Where was I? That was so funny. Okay, going back with see the guys, this is what happens when you're having fun with friends. You lose track of things. My next question, and might be my last, is what's your definition of, and I know we spoke a lot about it, and I should have asked this maybe in the beginning, but what's your true definition of a progressive?
Somebody who's relentlessly people first.
I love it. And I bring that up because I think there's always going to be not disconnects, but kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? Fake facts in regards to this is because look, and I don't know, I've met her a couple of times, but I can't, I never like to guess someone's true like political values. And obviously now I've got about 60 seconds left, but the Governor Spanberger, right? Yeah. She's now looked upon as, she's progressive. She was running on a moderate this, and now she's a progressive and this and that because she signed some gun laws. Okay, that makes somebody very progressive. Like, you're killing me, y'all. You're really killing me. But Jen, it has been a pleasure having you on. Real quick though, I do want to place your platform on here so folks can continue to follow with you. How can folks continue to support and check out your awesome content and everything you have going on?
Yeah, my Instagram is where I am daily. I also have a blog. It's grounded-now.com. I take a deeper dive into some of these sort of like conditioned beliefs, trauma, the intersection of all these things together. But this is where I am on a daily basis. Please check it out. And I'm responsive in DM. So if you have questions, just reach out. Y'all,
okay. Jen Johannsen, y'all. Jen Johannsen. Please follow on all social media platforms. IG, as you know, I am a avid viewer and supporter myself. Please do not be a stranger, Jen. And if you don't mind, I would love to chop it up with you just for a couple minutes after the show. But again, thank you so much. Thank you so much again for taking the time. Like I said, you're a very busy person because there's some big elections happening, midterm races here. And then we have this whole redistricting. Look, we forgot to talk about the redistricting. Oh, yeah, we're going to have to do a part 2, y'all. I'm sorry. You got to come back. You're going to have to come back. I'm already saying it right now. So I have witnesses. I hope you don't mind.
It's a yes. It's a yes.
Yeah. Bet. And I will be looking for my invite to the Virginia Hotties because it's not my feelings will be hurt.
Yeah,
I'll be like looking in the mail, like, where is it? My wife's gonna be like, what are you looking at? Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It's like a secret society I want to join.
Exactly. But again, thank you so much for coming on. Again, folks, please follow Jen Johannsen on her platform and on social media. She has some great interviews with some candidates too. Jen, thank you so much. Like I said, I'll talk with you just for a couple seconds after the show, so don't go anywhere. All righty, my friends. I hope you enjoyed. Yet another great convo here on the Arrington Gavin Show. Please be sure to follow us on our social media platforms, Instagram, Substack, Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not done so yet. I truly appreciate if you would support, share with a friend, share with family. Also check out our awesome website, www.theagshow.com. Again, that's www.theagshow.com. We got some great guests lined up for some future shows. As I mentioned, got a lot of candidates on. We're gonna have some elected officials on as well, and we're just gonna have a good time as we always do here on the Arrington Gavin Show. Peace and blessings. Stay safe and always stay informed. I'll talk to you soon. I'm out.
That's it for tonight on the Arrington Gavin Show. Thanks for tapping in and keeping the conversation alive. Don't forget, stay connected with us on all platforms. Follow at Arrington Gavin on Instagram, Blue Sky, and X, and subscribe to the official Substack for exclusive takes and deep dives you won't get anywhere else. We're here every weeknight, same time, same energy, same real talk. Until next time, stay bold, stay sharp, and stay true. That's what we do on the Arrington Gavin Show. Peace.